Now that I'm almost 22, I feel like it's time that I started living my own life and not the life that my mom has planned for me.
All right, you guys, TLC has given us another big family. We have the Delamonts. Their show premiered on February 25th. It is called Big City, Big Family. I have to admit I was a little hesitant to recap and do commentary on this family and on this show because when I made my previous video about them, which I posted before the show aired, it was just a video over 10 minutes long where I gave some basic information about them, a few of my opinions about the stuff they had shared publicly, but really it was just some basic info. The video didn't get a lot of views. I expected that. I'd never talked about them before. But what surprised me was in the few comments that I did get, there were people already defending them. Here's the thing, and I want to say this before I start talking about this episode. I like Amber and Marc. I think they seem to have polite, talented children. That doesn't mean there's not going to be some issues. I liked the Duggars before all of the stuff came out about them. When I first watched that show, I was like, I like them. I think there's still people in that family that are good people, that are nice people. I like watching the Plaths. I don't think Kim and Barry are awful people. I think they made some bad parenting choices, and I think they regret some of them. That's sort of how I feel about most shows on TLC. I like the people enough that I watch the show. If I met them, I'm not going to be rude to them. I don't think they're terrible. I don't think they should be in prison. It's just... Usually when TLC gives us a family, there's something that's controversial or problematic. I don't think this family is an exception to that. With that being said, I was surprised by what TLC gave us in the first episode. I wasn't expecting us to immediately see some cracks in the foundation. I was expecting an episode or two where they just focused on giving us the basic information. But when it was over and I was sort of reflecting on the whole thing and reflecting on what we know about this family, it just dawned on me, we're not going to get that the same way we used to from any show. Because with social media, we can already know so much about people, like about a family like this. This family has been making their money from social media content. Amber's already showed us what a trip to the grocery store is like multiple times. We know how much they spend at McDonald's. She's made a TikTok and a YouTube video about it. They no longer need to present a family to us where they're giving us the basic information. We can go over to YouTube and already see that. So they're going to jump right into the things that we don't see, the things that Marc and Amber might not even know are going on. And that is what they did. I guess I just didn't expect it. But let's go ahead and do a little bit of recapping. I will tell you, this is one of those shows where my recaps are not going to do the show justice at all because there's so much that is just said during confessionals that makes all the difference to understanding what is going on. But I'm going to start off by talking about the family and busking. This is one of the most controversial things about the family on social media. They bring it up here. Amber admits that it's the main criticism the family gets because people are concerned that they're forcing the kids to do it. Amber says they don't. Marc says that this is something that they asked the kids if they would like to do, and all of the kids agreed that they wanted to. It is absolutely true that they are criticized a lot for having the children busking. Here's my issue. In the past, when Amber would address this, she would say that the children were doing it to help pay for the extra things like the music lessons, the instruments, the music camps. And that's even how it started. They wanted to get money for a camp, and one of the women that ran the camp recommended doing this. So originally, years ago, when Amber would address this, she would say all of this is going to the kids and helping them get access to musical opportunities. But that has definitely changed. In this episode, we find out that when they went to New York, they had used their savings, and then that quickly disappeared. Marc did get a job. He's a project manager for a sign company, but the rent is $12,000. Marc's income covers half of that. Then Amber does social media content. The rest of the money they need is going to come from the kids busking. Amber says that the financial issues that they're facing is putting a strain on their marriage. So it's changed from what it used to be, busking to pay for lessons. Now it is busking to pay for lessons, musical opportunities, and the needs of the family. Later in the episode, Marc goes to talk to Amber alone without the children around about their financial issues. It seems they are not on the same page. Marc says maybe they need to move out of the city. It would be cheaper. But Amber is not having it. It is clear she is holding on to these kids rather tightly, and I'm specifically talking about Josiah and Pearl. You know, Pearl has a full scholarship. She has a dorm room she can go stay in. She doesn't need her whole family there. Josiah is going to the Manhattan School of Music. I'm sure they could work out something with him that would be better than the whole family staying there. But Amber believes that these older children need a family base. She says she wants to be there for them. You can tell Marc is not leaning that way. He says to let them go. They're going to make good choices. And she says, that's because we're here. I have to admit that I found the part where they were talking to each other in the park about the finances to be a little bit frustrating. It seems like Amber wanted these kids to get into these great art schools, wanted them to use their musical talents, but then when she needed to let them go, she didn't have a plan. She's not willing to let them go. I'm going to put a clip in of her talking about when she is going to be ready to do that.
How are we going to be intricately involved in their lives? Yes, I'm a helicopter parent. I know I need to let go, but they're not married yet. Like, I'll let go when they're married.
So as you can see there, Amber is holding on. Marc is more willing to let go. I have to tell you, I'm on Team Marc in this situation. There's a lot of other kids still in that family, and they should not be depended on to earn money to stay in New York. Pearl and Josiah need a little bit of freedom, and that is really what we find out later on in the episode. It focuses on those two trying to be more independent. But before I move on, I do want to throw in another clip about busking.
My family has relied very much on busking. Busking has helped me to see the value in every dollar. We mentally do the math as the money's going in to see where we are for that week.
So that is Josiah talking. He is 22 years old. You heard him say they're doing the math. They know that money they're earning is needed. When they are playing in this particular clip and go to walk away, they have only earned $85. That has to go toward their living expenses, of the living expenses of this whole family, and then they get 10%. So the kids are told, like, you're getting some of the money for yourself, but come on, split between all of them. That's nothing, right? They would be better off having Josiah, Pearl, and Elijah go get jobs. They would do better if they were all working. I really feel, I may regret saying this, and I may feel differently later, but after watching this, I am left wondering if Amber uses busking as a way to control the older children. They try to become more independent, and she can say, we need you. We still need you to come back and do this. You still need to be a part of this family. We're depending on you. And then they're reeled back in, and they're not growing the way young people grow and become more independent. But that's just what I'm thinking. You guys can let me know what you think down in the comments. Now let's talk about Pearl, this incredibly talented 20-year-old who's gotten a full scholarship to Juilliard. Full scholarship, including her dorm. She could have went to New York and lived there and been independent and had this amazing adventure, but she had her family follow behind her.
Sometimes I get bothered by the fact that they've followed me up to New York. I wanted to be here by myself like everyone else. I want to spread my wings a bit, and I think I need the space to be able to do that.
Now, I'm talking about Pearl in this part of the video, but I don't want to place all of that on her. Amber has a goal. She wants these kids to have musical opportunities, which is fantastic. So her being in New York, that she sees that as a benefit to all of the children. So it's not just Pearl, but there is this part of Amber that can't let go of them. And she talks about how They are living in a very liberal city. Marc actually says they're a G-rated family in an R-rated city. They do not want their kids participating in anything that doesn't align with their Christian values. So if they're nearby, they can try to make sure that it doesn't happen, that these kids are still kept close to home, close to the family, and as Amber says, close to God. I do want to add one more thing before I focus on Pearl. It was a while ago, but Amber had posted on social media, and I'm going to have to go back and look for it, but she had posted about how the family had moved because of a prospect of a television show, and then it fell through. I'm under the impression on the way she talked about it, there was another show that they were considering before TLC. I'm going to have to go back and dig through all of her TikToks and find it. But I'm going to say this, and I know some of you are going to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. But I feel like she's kind of a stage mom, you guys. She is pushing these kids into this. They may be willing to do it, and they may really love music, you guys. I believe that. I believe that based on how they're saying it. But you can't tell me Amber is not playing a role in some of them doing it. That's 10 kids. 10 kids all want to pursue music that much. There's actually a clip where one of the little girls says, you know what, instead of me trying to tell you, I'm going to go find it. I'll put the clip in here so you guys can see it.
Same thing.
I like how it works in our family. Our parents choose our instruments when we're babies.
They do end up liking it though.
So you heard the little girl say they choose the instruments, and then Amber adds they end up liking it though. Listen, I think these kids are talented. I think they love music. I think that's genuine. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I think they've got gifts, right? Talented, hardworking kids. I wonder if there's balance. You hear the kids talking about how they're never as happy as they are when they're playing the instrument, when they're out there busking, how much fun it is. Do they have extra money to play soccer, to take a karate class, to play softball or basketball? Has there been balance? And maybe they're not good at those things. Maybe they're not going to be a star athlete. Maybe that's not going to be where they shine, but they're kids, and the opportunity to run around and make friends and just have fun playing a sport is good for them too. And I wonder if they even have the money to do that because they're focusing so much on music. I'm just questioning the balance here. But let's get back to talking about Pearl.
I have not told my parents about Adam. I'm afraid what they might say. It's just new territory, so I'm a little nervous.
So that is Pearl, the daughter that has the full scholarship to Juilliard. She is 20 years old. She has met a boy named Adam. They have been seeing each other for a month, and she is really nervous to tell Marc and Amber about it. They believe in purity culture, waiting until you're married, no kissing. You date for the purposes of marriage, so there's no casual dating. We also find out when it comes to Josiah, Amber has a lot of control over who they spend their time with and how often they see people. So we'll talk a little bit about that later, but if Pearl knows about how controlling Amber is with Josiah, I can't blame Pearl for being nervous to tell her. And it is just as awkward as Pearl probably thought it was going to be when she chooses to bring this up over dinner with the family. I'm going to throw a clip in of her talking to Amber and Marc.
You're not spending alone time with him, right? That's dangerous, you know that, right? We don't see you, you're at school all the time, we don't know what's going on.
You don't trust me, you think?
For copyright purposes, I can't put in all I want to put in. If you guys watch the episode, though, you know what I'm talking about. They really give her a hard time, or at least I think they do. And they're doing it at the dinner table in front of everyone, all of the other siblings. I feel like they should have had a little bit of a conversation about it and then said, hey, Pearl, why don't we talk about this later alone so we can just find out some more information? It felt so awkward. And Pearl keeps on asking, like, don't you trust me? I wasn't raised to do bad things. It's just a stressful situation. I would have been incredibly nervous if I was her age and I was talking to them. And she shouldn't have to feel that way. She shouldn't feel bad about wanting to date. She how else would have this happened? What did they want from her? She had to spend some time with him to know if she even wants to date him, right? And she seems to be a good kid. She's actually 20. Saying kid is ridiculous. I don't know. It just was so awkward, and they're all sitting there staring, and I just felt really bad for her. I'm going to throw in another clip of Pearl talking during a confessional. Here it is.
It makes me feel frustrated with my parents because they should trust me, and I don't know what I've ever done to make them not be able to do that.
I'm a parent, and if I was on a show and my children were scared to tell me they liked a boy or liked a girl and then sat in a confessional and said that about me not trusting them, and they were great kids and had never done anything to make me not trust them, I would feel like crap. And there's a part of me that hopes Marc and Amber watched that episode and felt bad too. And it makes them realize they might need to change the way they're doing things. If you watch this episode, you know that they end up having Adam come over for dinner. He is very polite. He was homeschooled. He's a Christian, so he kind of aligns with what they're wanting for her. He seems, based on the little bit of footage we've seen, to be an all right young person. Nothing exceptionally strange, in the little bit we see. And it goes well. But it's, man, Marc and Amber, need to back off a little bit. But that's not all. It's not just Pearl, right? If you guys watched it, we got a whole issue going on with Josiah. Josiah is 22 years old. He's going to the Manhattan School of Music. He is dating a young woman named Eleanor. She lives in Pennsylvania, so it is a long-distance relationship. They've been seeing each other for 4 months. I'm going to throw a clip in right here of all of the children sitting around a table talking about him dating her. And I want you to listen to what Pearl asks him and how he responds.
How long have you guys been, official?
4 months, almost exactly.
Wait, aren't you only allowed to talk to her once a week or something? Or
Twice a week.
What?
You heard that right. He is only allowed to talk to Eleanor twice a week. And I just want to remind you guys, he is 22 years old. But that is one of the rules that they have for him if he is going to be dating. I went back and watched this part of the show multiple times. And every time I went back, there was another clue that there are issues with Amber. Every time I'd go back, I'd be like, oh, I didn't really even pay attention to him saying that. And honestly, him sitting and talking to Eleanor and talking about dating her didn't take up that much of the show. But it is clear Amber is the one that is in control of this family. I'm going to throw in a clip of him talking about his mom here.
No, my mom has a very specific set of plans for me, and if I were to deviate from those, she'll be extremely angry.
So we find out that Josiah has been dating Eleanor. The family knows about it, but he's not telling them that he intends to marry her because they might get mad. And he specifically mentions his mom. His mom has a plan for him. But I'm going to throw in another time that Josiah mentions Amber.
My mom would caution me to slow down and tell me that every single day, make me feel really bad.
So we just watched that whole situation with Pearl, and now we have Josiah hiding the fact that he wants to get married from his parents. And then he says that his mom is just going to bring it up every day until she makes him feel bad. But that's not all, you guys. I missed this the first time I watched it. I want to put in another clip of Josiah mentioning Amber.
I would never put you through living in my mom's basement because I wouldn't make you see my mom every day.
Listen, I think if you go back and you were to watch this again and again, sort of like I started to when I needed to pull these clips, you will find there are just these little moments that didn't stand out, and then you see them again and you go, whoa. Because the first time I watched it, I didn't even pay attention to that. But when you start adding it up with all the other stuff that's mentioned about Amber, you start thinking there might be something going on. I know when I made the last video, a lot of people were like, you don't even seem to know anything about this family, which what I thought was funny because I made the video based on what I was seeing online. You guys can go and find all of the stuff I said about this family on their social media channels. Watching this, made me feel worse about it. There's just something not right. And it's not them playing music that bothers me. I think these kids are super talented. There's just something about Amber. And what's weird is when I was watching her videos to make the previous video I made, I really liked her. I even said in that video, Amber has the ability to be critical of the religion they were a part of. She recognizes when things aren't right. She's very transparent. She's honest. You know, when she was questioned about things, she gave honest answers. They weren't always flattering. I felt like she was telling the truth, and I still sort of feel that way. I don't feel like they're lying. They seem to be being honest, even when it's not the best look for them. I just don't have a good feeling about this. I hope I'm wrong, though. Wouldn't it be great if we just watched it and it all came together and it worked out perfectly? But that's not the vibe I got from this first episode. You guys can let me know in the comments what you think. I'll definitely be watching next week, but that is it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this first episode. Have you been following them on social media before this? And if you haven't already, go ahead and click like and subscribe. I hope you come back to Happily Ever Reality.